What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Brave and Faithful podcast. Today, I have with me an Army veteran, and he's also a motivational speaker and life coach, Frank Fields. What's going on, Frank? How you doing?
Hey, how are you, Ren?
I'm good, man. I mentioned you're an Army veteran. Can you first off, talk to our audience a little bit about your service, what you did in the Army, how long you served for?
Sure. It's often I think like a lot of people they meet me or they hear of me and they think like I had some long military career, and I always am quick to tell people that I did not serve a whole lot of years. My career to my injury was pretty quick. I started in 2006, or excuse me, I started in 2005. I got stationed in Germany with the Big Red One. I was a 88 Mike transporter, and I got injured in November via IED
Hmm.
of 2006. That next year, and by 2008, I was medically retired. So it was like, to me, a lot of it, my memories felt like a lifetime, but um yeah, and when I look at the big picture, it's really a flash in the pan almost.
Right, right. So you basically, when you got in 2005, not within a year later, kind of like similar to my situation, you deployed your first deployment to, where did you go?
I went to Iraq.
Okay. And then that's where the accident happened, or?
Right, so we were in Iraq for about 8 months, 8.5 months, I think. And it's crazy because it was a few days after my 22nd birthday,
Mm.
or yes, 21st birthday. 37 now, so it gets a little hazy, but
Yeah.
but it was a few days after my birthday, and yeah, we got hit, and yeah, that was pretty much the gist of that, and then was off to launch duel and then BAMC.
So this was 2006, you said. And then you were obviously medevac. How long was kind of like your treatment and your therapy before you even got out of the hospital?
Yeah, so it like the Army therapy, which was all on BAMC, Brooke Army Medical Center. It lasted. I mean, I stayed in the hospital bed for almost over a month, almost 2 months probably, and then got well enough to get in a wheelchair. And once I got in a wheelchair, and a lot of people don't, I think they don't know this about this hospital, is once you're mobile and you're okay to move, like you have a physical therapist in your room and they are giving you already exercises to do in your bed, and you're waking up at 5 a.m. so you can go to PT
Wow.
every morning, and they try to reacclimate you back because they don't want to sympathize with things. They do want to empower you in a way. Not that I think 5 a.m. formations are the best for people in those situations, right? But um, it certainly isn't terrible. So, but I got there in end of '06. Took a couple of months in the hospital, and I was in therapy for a half a year or so, trying to get on prosthetics and do all kinds of things. And when I retired in '08, I kind of just I took a little break from the VA and stuff like that, and then in some years came back.
Okay. So, do you think that was beneficial though, even though like they still kind of had you in a routine while you were in that hospital, right? Like you said, you have 0 5 wake up and muster, and then you go through your therapy and things like that. Would you think that was actually beneficial in the long run?
In the big picture, I do, especially being a person now that I kind of help people in their worst spot get to a better spot, kind of like I was. And
Yeah.
so I think, when something like that in life happens, you don't yeah, if anybody asked me if I wanted to work out or if I even saw myself doing that, then I would have said no, or most of us would not do it because it seems so far-fetched due to our injuries
Mm,
and the range of extremities. And so I feel like it is good because you already have it bred in you from the military, and you need that. We need that as humans. I'm not even going to say just men. I say men and women. We need that animal, that beast, that drive that's within us. And I think that's part of it, even though when you're doing that, you don't see it in the beginning, and it's very small. The beast is very quiet at that point.
yeah, you're still trying to wake him up or wake her
Yeah.
up.
Oh
um,
yeah.
um, so 2008, you said that's when you were medically retired from the army. Um, what was kind of like your next step, and had you even thought about that before that time? Like, what were you gonna do?
So it's such a wild story, and I've tried to curate it over time because I don't want anything to run on about it because you can get lost in it in a way. But the short version is that before I retired, I was already I had a care what you call a case manager,
Mm,
and so she got me into the DMV and got me to driving with hand controls and got me all the stuff I needed help with to be independent and live my own life. On top of that, I was already forming a relationship with somebody I had met, and so that was growing. And um let's see. So when I got out, before I got out, I was out and I shouldn't have probably been out in the bars and all that stuff, but I was trying to. Now when I look at it in hindsight, I was trying to forget about my injury, and I was trying to just get back to life as quick as I could. As soon as they let me out in a car, I was like, I was gone. I was in the bars, I was hanging out. I was buying people drinks. I was using my TSGLI to act like I was some millionaire, and because I never had that kind of money before like that at that point in my life. I was 22 years old. And so in doing that, while I'm doing that, I've always had a strong passion for music. I've always written poetry, and I'm in a bar, of course, and San Antonio, just like Dallas, just like Houston, it's not odd that you bump in back in those days, you bump into someone that is doing music, an independent artist that is just hustling their mixtape through the bar or in the parking lot or wherever. And so I bumped into a guy, and he's just talking to me. He's like, "Hey, me and my brother were selling our mixtapes, this and that." And just to be nice, I bought a couple. They were like $5.
yeah.
And I saw him later, so I invited him to the table. We had a couple of drinks, and longer story shorter, we hit that off. And I really, at that point, I had the money to do it, and I thought, like, okay, well, I need to do something with my life. And I always been that way. Like, I always had an entrepreneur spirit, I think. And so I started like managing artists, and then it kind of grew into me putting a studio, because me and with the relationship I was in, we moved into a house. And so I built a studio in the house, and I had artists and all this stuff. And we never hit it big. And I mean, I did have other artists after that that are functioning artists now that they actually survive off of music. But that was like the first group, and it didn't work out all the way, but we did go on tour and do a couple of things with some big names. But it's nothing now. It's like, and you look back at it and you go, well, many thousands of people have probably done what we did.
Yeah.
So it just, yeah. And that was all popping off. And so by the time I retired, I was moved into the house, and I was in a relationship, and she had two kids. So I was a stepdad, insta dad. And I'm 22. I didn't know the first thing. I had lost my dad when I was 12. So I didn't have a whole lot of father skills. And so all this is popping off, and that's kind of where it was by the time I around when I was retiring.
So you had all this stuff going on, like, um, you're managing artists, although you also you were in a relationship. You said like you're a stepdad, instant dad. Uh,
Yep.
like what was kind of like your mindset as far as like, you know, is this what I wanted to do? Is that what you want to do long term, or like did you have other things in mind? And what kind of led you to doing, what you're doing now with coaching and speaking?
Great question. So at that time, I wanted to, like most people do these days, you don't want conflict with people. You want to keep the peace. You don't want to say no to people. This is, I think, programmed into most of us growing up. If we're decent people, we don't want to take advantage of people. We don't, if I've got the money, I'd rather pay for lunch, something like this. And it's like, um, what happened was I lost my train of thought a little bit. Okay, so okay, sorry.
You're
I'm
good.
a deep thinker. And so I don't think that's what I wanted per se. I love the fact of two young human beings looking up to me, and I felt like I was doing something good for the world in the fact that I was raising kids that weren't wanted by their own father, and me having lost my dad in life, I always had a sore spot for that, so that kind of, I think, the law of attraction or whatever they call it, the universe lined that up the way it was supposed to be. And my mindset, I think, was to get back out there and conquer the world. And that's why I'm always doing something big on another level, and it doesn't mean that I'm just so successful. I fail all the time, you know, but I learn from failures. And so I don't think that was what I wanted, but I think that's kind of what I needed, because it showed me a lot. It prepared me a lot, because after we split, some years after that, we stayed together almost 10 years, and after we split, we're still friends. But I understand her being a mother, being more mature in motherhood. I understand some of the things she was trying to get me to shape up to be, but I didn't have those skills, and I didn't know that. I was
Yeah.
just going off of pure fumes. And so, um, how I got into coaching, what happened was in 2018, I'm probably misquoting that year, around there, we had split up fully. And, so here I was in a house. I had space. I had all these things. Things were going fine in my economic life, I guess. But um, here I was just by myself, and so I put a bar in my house, and at this point in time, and I'm not a person that detests drinking. I just say define your alcohol with it, or define your relationship with alcohol before you get into it. And so I didn't define my relationship with alcohol, which was drink until you are buzzed and can't drink anymore, which is programmed into a lot of American kids. And so one night, and this was on the cusp of, like, a couple of nights before, I'm in my buddy's garage. We're shooting back some great whiskey. and and I'm telling him I just saw a thing on the Invicta games, and it had inspired me so much to see disabled athletes, because here I was, 30 something years old, early 30s, and I'm like, yeah, okay, it's great that I was in the war, and it's great what I did, but I haven't, like, I still got another 50 years, like, I need to do something.
Right.
I need to put my mark on something else. And when I saw that, it inspired me so much. So fast forward to when I'm in my buddy's garage and we're talking about it, comes up in the convo, and I say, man, you know what? And I'm pretty buzzed, so I'm when you're buzzed, you have all kind of courage.
Yeah. Yeah.
liquid courage. And I told him, I said, you know what, man, I'm gonna turn some things around for myself. And he's like, well, what? Your life is good. You know, you're doing, you know, you're doing okay. Like you're not wanting in that way or whatever. And I said, but I'm not fulfilled. And I said, I saw these people in the Invicta games, and I said, I was like, I thought I could never really be an athlete again. And it inspired me. And I said, and I told him when I was buzzed, I'm like, you know what, man? I'm gonna get in shape. I'm going to be the most fit amputee in the world. I'm going to be the most motivational person in the world. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be the best looking guy in a wheelchair. And I was just rattling off all these amazing, motivating things, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
that at that time, I truly didn't believe I deserved those things, but it really felt good to say it. And so after that night goes away, couple more nights go by, probably a week or something, and here I am one night at my house, and by this time I'm having cocktails to go to sleep, which is terrible. Any professional would tell you drinking to go to sleep, it keeps you from dreaming, all kinds of things. So I'm having a cocktail and I'm thinking about what I said to my buddy. I'm thinking about the games, and I'm just, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, okay, what do I have to do to get there? Well, I got
Right.
to be in phenomenal shape, right? Not knowing that really what I needed to work out was my mind.
Mm.
And my mind is what had got me to this point, to that point, and I forgot that. And so I have a pull-up bar in my closet, still have it. It's made a man out of me many times. And I go in the closet. Once again, I'm feeling buzzed. And you know what? I'm not trying to sound like I was an alcoholic because I didn't drink every night, but certainly to celebrate something that wasn't even worth celebrating and making an excuse to drink, I would find one. If
Yeah.
that, you know, if, you know, so um I get on the pull-up bar, doing some pull-ups. I got the Alexa going in the background, you know, got some music, and I'm feeling good, feeling buzzed. And of course I get off the pull-up bar, and yeah, I'm about ready to barf. And so I start doing my thing. And as I'm there, for some reason, the thoughts flash in my mind, like my own voice, because your voice is your voice in your head, and it's you talking to you when that happens. So, and I don't know why my voice did this. You know, it's like it disconnected from my ego for a second, and it said, "Man, you know, all those people that tell you thank you for your service, and all those people that look up to you and really, you know, put you on something." And I said to myself, what would those people think of me right now as I'm on the floor, sitting by the toilet, throwing up, not looking like a real hero,
Right.
not looking like some guy that should be saying, you know, and I don't want to be put on some pedestal or anything. But you know, for the reference of what I'm saying is like, you know, I don't look like a person that should be even acknowledged at this point. And I'm telling myself this, and I get up from throwing up, and I felt like I almost had alcohol poisoning. That's that kind of feeling. And I look in the mirror, and I'm looking at and I got the sweat, and people know this, and they have been here. Many people have been here. So I have no shame in this story, but I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm like, dude, you're a loser. You know, I'm out of shape. I'm already skinny, so everything goes to my belly. So I got a nice little beer belly, and it's past dad bod, you know, and that's just terrible. And so looking at myself, and I'm just like, yeah, this ain't it.
Mm.
And I kind of throw up a little more, go lick my wounds, but I put on some YouTube motivational stuff the next day when I wake up after my hangover, and I started just watching the Tony Robbins and the David Goggins stuff and all the stuff that all of us motivational guys start off on. This is how we all start. We got to look at somebody, and this is how everybody does it, you know. And then it just it just burned into my mind because I had already been helping a bunch of my friends that were vets, like deal with their demons, stuff like that. But I was only able to scratch the surface with them because I hadn't dealt with my own. I hadn't really
Right.
faced myself and said, hey, you really are being a loser right now, and had that heart to heart with myself. And so I just started being so motivated because I was so
So down.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's how it works for a lot of people. And you just got to wait for your, it's like being a surfer. You got to wait for your wave. It might not come right now, but it's coming, and when that ripple hits, you better pop up and you better hit that wave, because you got to ride it as long as it lasts. And so I started telling my buddies about it and learning all the things about um, putting things out there and speaking things into exist, all this stuff. I started doing that. I started really believing it. And it's funny when you change yourself, you don't have to say, hey, why isn't the world this way? You can go, okay, well, Frank, and this is one thing that could help some vets in wheelchairs and amputees and burn guys too, I think, is like saying, well, this is that. This is what that is. But you know what? This does not define who I am. This is a moment.
Yeah.
You know what? And I'm going to use this and I'm going to make a bunch of other moments. And before you know it, it's like you get on this frequency and I'm seeing other people now for some reason. Tell me why people are popping up on my Instagram and they're in wheelchairs now. And people are, it's because they were there all along. I wasn't looking. I was focused on something else. And all that stuff, it led me to slowly becoming a life coach, which now I'm slowly kind of forming into a business. Haven't got a website yet. Still got some things in the works as far as what I'm trying to build for it. But as far as life goes, it doesn't take a business to motivate me. Like I'm already out there. I'm already doing it. Like I go talk to people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, I take donations. I don't even, so it's like I'm not even on the level where I'm a paid life coach or I'm getting many clients. I'm a person that I want as much experience as I can. And if I deserve those things will come right along because I know now it's not the world, it was me. And so I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, but
So
it's like,
yeah, yeah. So how long or you mentioned like that moment, right? Like when you're looking yourself in the mirror. Was that kind of like your, self-defining or like, hey, I need a change moment? And what initially, you mentioned that you had already been helping other vets and amputees with as a coach. Um, but yeah, like talk to us about like some of the most rewarding moments you've had since you've kind of been on this journey as a speaker and as a coach.
I think some of the most rewarding stuff is when I get to go on post and talk to a couple hundred soldiers at a time. And especially a lot of them are in the medical field. Like that's one of my most memorable ones, getting to talk to medics,
Mm.
because my best friend that saved my life on the battlefield was our medic. And so that's just such an epic emotional bond that we have. And to talk to other medics in training and let them know, hey, look, you don't have to do a job perfectly, but you have to do the job right. And I am the result of what you can plant the seed for when you do the job right. I know it's a lot of pressure. I know it ain't easy, but that's why your friends ain't sitting where you are. And so that's like I love because I get to talk to them like when they're coming out of the field and they're a little beat up and they're tired and they got to go right back to testing in the classroom and doing all that, and people are dropping like flies and quitting, and I love to come in there and say, hey, look, like last time I said, I heard there's a couple of people that quit in your class. You lost a couple of people, and you hear some things in the crowd, and then I go, don't worry about that, because you know what that means? That's less competition, and then you get a little chuckle, and there's like this relief, and so that, it takes the serious, and it brings a little comic relief. But I love doing that because I think when a lot of people see me, they just see the injury and they see seriousness. They think that, and maybe they know someone like me that is bitter, like I once was,
Mm.
that has a bad attitude, but those people can change just like I did. You can change your views. You don't have to be bitter forever. So
Yeah. So, in talking about, you going out to talk to people in your speaking gig, how did you initially, you know, when you made that choice, like, what was your initial, like, hey, I'm gonna go talk to these people, or like, how did you coordinate that stuff?
it's funny that, because people, and this is why I tell people, don't worry about how much money you have, don't worry about your connections, don't do it for all those things, don't do it for the fame, don't do it for whatever. Like, just work on you, and really focus on the, and I'm gonna answer your question. I'm just saying, like, I'm building up to it. Focus on your craft, and like I said, the world doesn't need to change. And so when you know it, my next door neighbor is just retiring out of the military at this time. Me and him, he helps me work on my yard. Great guy. He's a medic.
Mm.
And I'm talking to him, and he's asking me, because at this point in life, now I'm having people just ask me, because you have a conversation with me, and this is how I talk all the time. It's not an act. I don't script anything. It's just, it come from my soul, I think. And so I'm talking with him, and he's like, getting some advice, and he's my great neighbor. So of course, I give you all the advice I can to enrich you and empower you. And he's like, man, you know what? I can't just, this is selfish to keep you all to myself, bro. You got to come on post and talk to the soldiers.
Mm.
You got to talk to my soldiers, to my trainees. And that's how the first one started. And then that one went on the internet. And then somebody else that from another not battalion, but another part of the post that has soldiers in training. I think they were like lab techs and some other MOS reclassing. And he said, and I knew him from back in the day before he joined the army. And now he got stationed here and was a drill. Isn't that crazy? And then, and then he saw what I was doing, and he just happened to be on that post. I didn't even know it. Boom, hits me up. There I am. And before you know it, I got things circulating, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I asked that question because, I mean, like, just like you said, right? Like, focus on you and focus on what you can contribute, right? Because at the end of the day, really, it's all the other stuff will come. It's just, as a speaker, you gotta kind of have to find your voice um, within people, and who you can connect with, and you know hopefully motivate and change people's lives with that. Because I think too many people focus on the external things, right, and like what they can gain from it, when they should be focusing on what they can provide, and for people that they're speaking to.
I agree. I used to focus on the exterior. I use the example of being on prosthetics now versus then, and why I never fully got independent on my prosthetics at that time, I think, is because I was so worried about how I looked. And I look back, and hindsight is 2020, because I look back at it and I was more worried about the type of shoes I had on my prosthetics.
Mm.
Or, I'm not, I don't buy designer really, or I'm not a fashionable guy, but I do like to wear a nice shirt every now and again, or look nice when I go out. And yeah, so I was more worried about the outside. But once I said, you know, walk, Frank, just do it. Just worry about walking. And just like life coaching, just like motivational speaking, worry about the inside,
Yeah.
the inside prosper or the outside prospers, I believe, because I took my attention off of myself. And I'm no do-gooder, and I'm not trying to preach, but I'm just saying I put a lot of attention on other people now, and that that keeps my ego off myself.
Yeah, I love that. You worry about the inside, and the outside will prosper. So Frank, as a motivational speaker and as a life coach, for those that are listening, what's advice that you can kind of give them right now to kind of get them in focus on the right thing and get in the right direction.
In order to be great at anything, I would say first, do like all of us and look to someone you admire. Look to someone in the world. Don't look to them because they have fame. Don't look to
Right.
them because they have a lot of money. I tell people all the time, famous people are in your life already, and you're not making them famous. Like my dad was famous to me growing up. If I could bring my dad back, I would still talk about him like he's the biggest celebrity on earth. So find someone that you can really learn from. People, they want, like, for example, if you want money, start studying Warren Buffett. Start studying bankers. Learn how our banking systems work. If you want to, I have many friends that argue over politics, and I tell them, hey, go be a politician. Oh, I'm not going to do that. Well, then shut up. you know, but yeah, I think bond yourself and apply yourself. And when I wanted to be a life coach, I didn't wait until I had like my first success story. I went out there and I started telling the world like I was Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
And if people, they say, hey man, have you heard of this guy? I say, I am that guy, because you have to believe in yourself. And it's not BS. It really is. You have learned, how when people give you a compliment, um, it feels good. Or even when you give a compliment, it feels good. And so what you need to do is use your ego as a cheerleader. Your ego is there to aid and abet you in petty compliments. When I'm in the gym and I look in the mirror, I have to tell myself, "Oh man, you look good." You know why? Because that motivates me to get back on the bench, pump another 10 reps or whatever I need to do. Or when you're in the middle of something, you're struggling, you're competing, you need to keep going. Well, hey Frank, you remember you've been blown up by a bomb, right? You made it through that, and you're going to let this defeat you? You got to
Yeah.
talk noise to yourself, right? And we're all made of greatness. It's just that use that ego as a cheerleader. Don't and it won't, when we talk about defining, people want to define the outside instead of the inside. That's your ego, because it's going to project. It's going to say, okay, well, I think people like me when I'm well put together, so I'll just always be well. But people don't care. Most people,
That's
they
just
see
you
it.
talking. Yeah.
Yeah, they go. People ask me, they say, how do you go out there and talk to people and you don't write things down and you don't have a script and this and that? I say, people don't really pay me for one-liners and words, even though I have some great quotes and all this. I say, what you do is, what motivational speakers, the best ones, what I've observed is they transfer energy. Now, some of them are so great, they can talk just like this at this volume, and they can transfer energy just like somebody that's like, man, and they come into the room and they get it, and everybody has their little techniques.
Yeah.
And so it's a transfer of energy. That's what I do. So, it's I tell people, just aspire to be someone that is great, and then take the good off of them, because nobody's perfect, and apply it to your own systems and protocols. And as you fail your way forward, go, okay, well, just as if I'm on prosthetics, I stumble, I fall, I go, okay, well, Frank, you stepped wrong, or you didn't shift your weight when you needed to get, this or whatever you got to, and you
It's just
analyze it.
adjusting.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
if the ego gets in the way, then you get emotional, because you go, oh man, if I wasn't on prosthetics and if I wouldn't have been in the war and But see, I've already done all the self work where I've already blamed myself for getting blown up. And people say, how do you do that? I say, well, think about it. I signed up for the war. You know, Bush didn't tell me to go in the war. He didn't make me go. Like whoever is the president doesn't make you do anything. Like the bad guy was doing the same thing I was when you really think about it.
Yeah.
He was fighting for what he believed in. And it might not be right or we agree with it, but that's what we was doing and they don't agree with us. So, I think just calculate, analyze, fail, don't be afraid to fail, put it out there and and believe it. Really believe it. Brainwash yourself. Tell yourself, I've done sleep hypnosis. I've done all kind of crazy things to brainwash myself to be confident, to be more confident, to be, because I'm human. I worry, I have doubts. Everybody does. The greatest athletes do.
Yeah. And I think that's important is, obviously, um, working on yourself and your mindset to begin with, and knowing that, yeah, you will, like you said, you will stumble, you will fall. There's going to be many failures. As long as you know that from the beginning and know, like, it's not going to be a straight trajectory to success, right? Like there's going to be twists and turns. As long as you know that from the beginning, then I think, because ultimately your mind will carry you through anything.
I second that.
So Frank, man, before we go to the second segment of the podcast, what's one thing you want our listeners or our viewers, for those that are watching, to take away from this episode?
If there's one takeaway, I think don't look at things and say, well, it looks impossible. It must be impossible. And to that, I have a quote, which I always say, forget what you cannot do and do something they will never forget. Find a way. Find a way to put your mark on it. I, you know, for example, I just did a Spartan race in California, right? And I'm not, I'm not the greatest gifted athlete out there. There's many people passing me the whole time, but I'm putting my mark on it. I'm sliding down hills. I'm doing combat rolls. I'm climbing monkey bars. I'm doing what I can the way I can do it. And so forget what you cannot do and do something they'll never forget.
It's a great quote, and I might ask you something similar later on.
Okay.
Frank, going to the second segment of the podcast. So this is what I call the Fast Five. So these are the same five questions asked all my guests. First question: what's one hobby you enjoy?
One hobby I enjoy, well, music, but shamelessly, my shameless hobby still is video games.
Okay. Anything in particular?
Right now, I just like to get online with my bro and play a little Call of Duty, what everybody's playing, all that kind of stuff, and then I'm like an achievement hunter, so I like to just play games, and sometimes I don't necessarily, it's not the greatest game in the world, but I just just like a kid when we were kids, you could take a cartridge and just play for hours, and that's just so I think it's just kind of sometimes on my off time,
Yeah.
kind of helps with that. I don't know if it helps with PTSD or whatever, if playing Call of Duty helps with that, but
Kind of get your
seems
minds
to.
off things.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. Frank, next question. If you had to choose one person to hang out with for one day, who would it be and why?
One person to hang out with for one day. I'm gonna say, man, and this is the tough question, and so there's 10,000 answers. But what I'm gonna say is I would love to hang out with The Rock
The Rock.
because, yeah, because of his determination, his work ethic, being somebody that um, failed, pretty much failed in college by getting hurt. His NFL career was over. Went into wrestling, somebody that I used to imitate in high school, used to help me get girls' phone numbers. So you know, with that eyebrow, it's a killer. But
Yeah.
no, always been a big fan. I'm definitely gonna say, and it's right off the top of my head, it definitely probably The Rock, just because he's so influential right now. And
Yeah.
I think that for me, I'm always, especially being a guy with a disability, I'm always trying to go to the next level, like in my workouts, and I just want to do stuff that where I'm having that David Goggins mindset, and you know, I should have said David Goggins. Sorry, David, if you see this, but but yeah, you know, I definitely The Rock for sure, because I think he could show me how to get to that next level, and because he wouldn't see me as a dude in a wheelchair, he would understand what that greatness is all about.
Yeah, it'd help you get to the next step, right, of your journey.
Yeah, and I have no intentions like looking like The Rock. Okay, like I'm
Yeah,
fine with my super soakers. Okay, I'm good with that. But you know, I mean, just the, like we were talking about, that mindset.
definitely, definitely. Recommend a Next question. Recommend a book for our audience to read.
Ooh, yeah, I got some good ones. So I'm gonna say 75 Hard by Andy Frisella.
Okay. Yeah.
He is a self-made billionaire,
Have you tried
and
the whole program?
I'm on it right now. I'm on day
Oh, okay.
43.
Congrats, man.
So yeah, so that's why it just came right to my mind. But can I just list a sub book, because this is a
Sure.
great
Yeah.
book too. I would say David Goggins' book, because I just got done reading that
Oh,
after 75 Hard.
can't
Can't
stop.
Hurt Me.
Can't hurt me. Yeah. Yeah. The audiobook. If you listen to the audiobook, that's probably like the best way to go through that book. Um,
Yeah, I love that. I love that book for sure. But 75 Hard, because I think, even like, there's a lot of generations, because we got a great easy world sometimes to live in. We got a lot of luxuries. It's a whole lot of people getting soft, because that's the cycle of things. You know, life ain't been that hard. Yeah, we've had hardships, of course, but I mean, go back to my father's era. Yeah, you know, like, no, it's not that hard. So I think 75 Hard is a book that says, hey, look, stop making excuses, look in the mirror, tell yourself you're a loser, and get on with it.
all right. So I asked this question, or I didn't ask you. You kind of gave your quote already, but what's your favorite quote and why?
Okay, so obviously, forget what you cannot do and do something they will never forget. My favorite quote is that, because in the beginning, when I first started kind of getting into shape, turning things around, kind of going out there, I still felt like sometimes, and it's not the world. It's kind of hard, I think, to word this without being it misconstrued, but I felt like, and maybe it's part of my insecurity too. At that time, I just felt like I always had something to prove, being a dude in a wheelchair. You know, I always, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take all the guys and girls in wheelchairs, and I'm gonna put y'all on my back, and we finna go prove it. Like, and people are gonna be like fanning us one day. And it's like, why, and I started getting in my head about it. Like, why is it always the celebrities? Why is it, oh, why do we go fight wars and do all these things? And we've done what less than 2% of the world has done, and our nation has done, in Iraq and Afghanistan. And yeah, thank you for your service. Oh, big deal. So
Yeah.
that just, I just always had that chip on my shoulder. And I appreciate people telling me thank you for my service. I'm not trying to say that I don't appreciate it, but yeah, that's kind of where the quote was. It was kind of born from, you know what? Instead of saying F it, I'm gonna say forget it. And now, if that way of thinking, I started thinking of, because I write quotes all the time, or I used to, for a while anyways, and I, not so much recently, but it kind of formed, and yeah, there it was. And I just put it out one day, and out of all my quotes I've listed, it just stuck. People just
Yeah.
started saying it to me. Hey, what was that quote? And then people, wanted to make t-shirts and do all this stuff. And so now I'm trying to get it copyrighted so I can just own it.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Forget what you cannot do and do something they will never forget.
Right.
All right, Frank. So last question here. Where do you see yourself in 5 years or maybe even 10 years from now?
So in 5 years, I see myself having a I'm not gonna have an expectation on what type of business, but at least having my business model out of the way and having things built so I can facilitate a place where people can come instead of Facebook and all that kind of stuff. And then the long term in 10 years is by that time I want to have some investments mature. I want to start coaching people more on finance, but I felt like I don't have the qualifications until I get all of my finances correct. And that just doesn't mean having money. That just means I've been doing a lot of things like making separate accounts and putting a pile here, disposable versus business expenses, all the stuff. So
Right.
just getting right and reading books right now. Here's another great book, um, Investing in Stocks for Beginners by Max Waring. And so he quotes Warren Buffett and he's read all those books a lot. And so, I'm just getting into all that stuff. But in 10 years, I want to be not a full-time investor, but someone who has made a good business and made maybe a little bit of wealth because I need to have a good amount of money so I can help a lot of people. So I can
Right.
take my brand and be like, okay, well, I like because some people, I want to be the type of person that has a business. Like there's some people they deserve to get my service, even though they maybe can't pay for it right away, or they can't afford it all. Like they deserve me. And so it's like they maybe need me. And maybe through my program, I help them get better with their finances even. And so then they can't, so I understand life is not just business. But in 10 years, I want to, I want to get it to there to where life and business are balanced, I guess.
Yeah, spoken like a true entrepreneur, man.
Thanks.
Obviously, thinking of other ways, obviously, to earn the money to kind of fund the dream and what you want to do and help definitely helping more people out there. The more people the more successful you are, the more people you can help. So, well, Frank, man, I appreciate the time. Thanks for telling us a little bit about your story. Before we go, tell our audience where can they follow you, where can they support you, where can they find out more about you?
So I'll just say my Facebook at Frank Fields, and that's a great starter because it's more personal, and then it shows more of what I'm doing as far as races and speaking and all that. And then it'll lead you to my Instagram if you want to see that. But my Instagram, I've made it more private. I'm kind of going through a rephase and kind of just doing some as they call house cleaning. And so and my Instagram is just kind of different because my Instagram, I worked with a team at one point, and that's how I kind of got to where it was. And then, not being somebody that doesn't post all the time, it just kind of lost engagement. And so I've just kind of been up and down with it, and I just don't care as much, like I just want to get my message out. I don't really care if you like it, if you want to give me a bunch of likes or whatever. But yeah. So I would say Facebook and at Frank Fields. And if you just need counsel, if you need a quick word of advice, hey, say, look, man, I saw you on a podcast, I saw you online. Hey man, I just got one question for you. I get that all the time. Hey Frank, what is the meaning to life? So I'll try my best. I will try my best. And I'm not a person that needs money to do that. Just talk to me. I'm a human being. You know what I mean? I feel like people want my handle, they want to know where I'm at, they want to see my page, but then people don't want to talk to me sometimes. They're scared to talk to me. And I get it. Some people are a little shy, but I can help you with that. So, don't be afraid to reach out to me on Facebook.
Awesome, man. So again, that's Frank Fields on Facebook. Best way to reach out to you, and then shoot him a private message or whatnot if you have any questions or
Yeah.
anything that you want to. Yeah,
Or if you need a speaker, I mean,
yeah. There you
because I'm
go.
always open. So I'm always open for that.
Awesome, man. And Frank, again, thank you for the time, man, and hopefully we'll be hearing from you soon within hearing more about your success.
Definitely. Thank you, Ren. Appreciate it.
Awesome, brother. Take care.
You too.